I don't know what's in the air today, but we've got a lot of very reasonable and awesome callers so far. I'm enjoying this a lot.
Definitely. I would love to talk to Chewy in Tennessee. Chewy, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like?
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what I want to talk about. I'm kind of coming at you here from a stance of practicality rather than what is actually right, maybe. So bear with me. I'll try and be brief. So I was talking to one of my atheist friends, and they were talking about how they were giving me, legitimizing a little bit of why it makes sense for people, maybe on an evolutionary way to. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Why it makes sense that we have these religious beliefs and things, and in a nutshell, he said you might think of some of the more out there sort of Hale-Bopp comet. You guys remember that Hale-Bopp comet? Those people really had some out there beliefs, right? Lots of different groups do. In general, the typical American religious belief is pretty out there if you really take a hard look at it. But I guess over time, it's been normalized. And so that being said, the more out there that a thing is, and the less provable it is, and people still get together and believe it, the more unified they are, and hard to tear them down and break them apart, like separate them or make them not unified, So, and there's a lot of, I guess you could say, secular groups. I even think the ACA it might have been a schism at one point in time over something that kind of broke the unity down. That being said, the secular groups like the ACA or whatever atheist groups at large have do they think about how, in the long run, how could they have a unifying belief like what theists and religious organizations have, period?
Okay, that was a little, I'm trying to parse that apart because there are a lot of pieces to that. I guess the first piece that I want to take on is you're talking about the practicality of it and not whether or not it's true, right? Just the usefulness of it is kind of the bent that you're taking to this, right?
Yeah, I think there's a big advantage right there.
Okay. But I'm sure you also recognize that there are plenty of communities that are wonderful to each other that have nothing to do with religion. Different hobbies people have, different things that people do for fun. When I got into blacksmithing, the blacksmithing community is amazing. I found a community on YouTube that does 17th century reenactments. And if you've ever seen Jas Townsend and Son, oh my gosh, I have spent hours watching that. There's a lock picking community out there that I adore.
What?
Yeah, they professional locksmiths and people who just send practice locks to each other. But the interesting thing is when you dive into it, you see these people who are there for each other, especially during this time. I think that while I see what you're saying, I would not grant that is a good reason for religion, because honestly, I have found a lot of people and talked to a lot of people in my life who thought that the only way that you can have community is with religion. But religion doesn't have a stranglehold on kindness and on charity and on community. Those are things that we build with each other. And sure, there are a lot of communities that do that around religion, but you don't need it. It's not a religious thing. Community is a secular thing. It's just something we do as a social species.
Right.
That's cool about the lock picking group. That sounds kind of D&D, but whatever.
Oh, dude, check out Bosnian Bet. That guy is one person whose voice I would just love to fall asleep listening to. I have no idea any of this person's religious beliefs or their political leaning. I don't know. All I know is they just pick locks.
Yeah, and Chewy, nobody is disputing necessarily that religion is not a good source of community. I think that it is. I think that religion has had so long and has been put in such a place of privilege, regardless of which religion it is. Religion as a concept has been put in such a place of privilege for so long that it has become a very useful and effective tool in building community. But as we look at it in a world now where thankfully we are starting to be able to safely critique it, we are seeing that there are things that are not beneficial that come along with that benefit. And so the question is then, okay, are we stuck in this world where we need to accept all of these unbeneficial and indeed harmful things to get community, or can we go find community somewhere else and ditch the other more harmful things? The way you described religion in your initial question as a group of people who believe something so out there that they feel the need to become even more cohesive and more strong as a group sounded a little bit culty to me, honestly. And
I agree.
That level of brainwashing, that level of groupthink, that level of magical thinking can be seen very clearly with certain political discourses happening right now, but also in various religious communities. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think that we can find a way to have a community, and a very strong one, and one that values and holds similar values to us without necessarily sacrificing our individuality or our ability to think for ourselves or question authority. And so, yeah, I think that saying religion is a source of a good community is accurate. I think it's also accurate to say that there are dangers that maybe outweigh that particular benefit, and it's useful to go find it elsewhere.
All right, that's a good response. I would respond and leave it at this. I take what you mean. You both have good points. I often wonder if we would have made it through the Dark Ages and stuff. I know religious did probably most of its worst work in that period. Who knows? But like, I kind of look at I guess it'd be called the feudal system or whatever. However, civilization was working back then in Western Europe was like the royalty and the military were kind of like, and the clergy for that matter, and probably some upper crust were like the insurance policy for humanity, because one bad harvest or one weird war or one weird plague, we're all done for. And so they're like the insurance policy. They are quote unquote the best of the cream of the crop or whatever over here. They basically tell all the peasants to keep your head down and make turnips, and enforcing that was the iron fist of the religion at the time. And I don't know if we could have like bridged the gap without that kind of thing. And I think about that a lot. And I'm glad we did, but I don't know. Sometimes I think of it like, was that strict rule of law and religious law keeping everybody in line with the carrot and the stick? And is it time that can be let go?
I get what you're saying, and I think that at least for me is outside of my range. I mean, I can speculate, but I would probably encourage reaching out to somebody who has a good grasp of that culture and the time, who might be able to tell you a little bit more. But I definitely
can say that it's pretty, from my understanding, it's pretty well documented that actually we were on a pretty good course in terms of humanity until the church took over, and then it became the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages after religion kind of put itself in a place of authority. So I definitely do more research into that and see what you can find out, because it's actually very fascinating to talk about that part of history, because the way that we've been sold it, knights and princesses and Monty Python is definitely pretty whitewashed. So it's very interesting. I definitely recommend checking that out more.
All right. Hey, I certainly do appreciate your all's time. You have a good one now.
You too.
Thank you. Yeah, talking about communities that are there for each other. I grew up in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and about this time of year, all the way through end of July, oh my goodness, the amount of people who congregated to reenact the Battle of Gettysburg was absolutely mind-blowing. And I had this one friend who every year his highlight of the year was to participate in this community, and his role was to put on a historically accurate period woolen suit
Yeah.
and lay down in 120-degree weather on his face and pretend to be a dead Confederate soldier for 8 hours for an entire weekend. Like,
And
he
he
was
didn't get to do any fun stuff. He just
he just laid there. Like, his job was to be a prop in full wool suit, middle of summer, in the sun, 8 hours, 3 days in a row. And it was his favorite thing in the world. He got so excited about it. And so, yeah, like, the concept of people, coming together and having a community over things that, honestly are not religiously affiliated at all is that was my entire growing up.
Absolutely. Actually, a couple things just came to mind, and while we have the platform, I think we should absolutely shout it out. We are a community, and we're going through some shit right now. I recently saw that Shannon Q has gone through a pretty serious ordeal and is looking to raise money for some serious heroes who have, lost their lives in a tragic event in Canada. If you haven't seen or have the ability to check out what's going on, definitely follow Shannon Q. Also, there's another YouTuber whose roof to their home was ripped off in a tornado, who needs help. There are people who are surviving earthquakes who are still stuck during this COVID-19 virus. They need help. I would love to see this community gather together and do what we can to help, even if it's just to say, hey, we're thinking about you. Hey, you're not alone. Because it can feel very, very lonely when you find yourself in a position like that. So definitely, I would love to see this community rally around those people. And I would love to see some of those links go out because they're good people, and we should be there for each other. We have an excuse. We have a community. Let's use it. Let's use it for the right reasons.